All right, so I'm Colby Bowen, and I chose to research Hungary and the customs and culture there. So I think it's an interesting part of the world. It's a part that has still had a little bit of influence from communist, um, communist culture and background, even though it left communism in the early 1990s. So Hungary is located right around here. It's in between Ukraine and Austria, so right in the middle of Europe. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to be talking about, that part of the world. So some useful points to note is that Hungarian language is very difficult, and the Hungarians know this. So basically any, I guess, effort put towards that is appreciated. Hungarians love foreigners. They love people coming to try out their customs and their experience in their country. So that's a really good point there. Another interesting and useful tidbit of information to know is that the view of the customer-business relationship is much different there than it is here. Here in America, we say that the customer is king and the customer knows best. In Hungary, that's just not the case. Hungarians view it as the customer is the guest in the house or home of the host or the business. And so there's a certain level of respect that businessmen or businesses in general will expect from their customers. So as an example to show that, here in America, salesmen will try to fight for their customers. They'll offer discounts and do that kind of stuff. They don't really do that in Hungary. If there's any unloyalty shown, they aren't going to waste their time. So it's kind of an interesting aspect there. Another useful point that is good to know is how the use of time and the importance of that is viewed in Hungary. Here in America, we would see sitting on a park bench all afternoon as a waste of time. In Hungary, that's a legitimate use of time. Time is much slower in Hungary. They aren't rushed as much. You don't see a lot of fast food joints, for example, but here they're on every street corner. People there walk to the grocery store every day to get their food, whereas here we just do it all in one big haul because we don't want to waste our time. So, yeah, my point is that with that, we shouldn't expect work meetings to be rushed or be cut short in Hungary. If you ever have those work meetings, basically you should expect to go over time or expect to not start on time because people are late. People kind of just go with the flow there. So to adapt personally when doing any business in Hungary or with Hungarians, the first thing I would do is I would work on communication. Now this may be used with an interpreter. Luckily I speak the Hungarian language, and so that would save a lot of time. And I think it would earn respect right off the bat with Hungarian businessmen. So that's definitely a good point. Brush up on the language or do your best to learn some phrases, things like that. Another way to bridge the gap is through manners and customs. That being a guest thing, like I explained earlier, there's a level of respect that needs to be understood. And also the way that you greet people is a little bit different there. So that's something to look into. And also planning for time overlaps. That's something that should be understood. So last thing is I would make sure to just establish goals. They tend to have the attitude of, well, what can be done, and they just throw up their hands and forget about it. But the what can be done question should be approached as, okay, let's work towards this. What can really be done to work forward? And I think that would be a surprise for Hungarians, but something that can definitely be brought into a business relationship with Hungarians. So that is my research on the Hungarian culture.